Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Health and Wellness Call with Dr. Joe Wallach and Pharmacist Keith. For those of you who don't know me, I am a practicing pharmacist. I've been a pharmacist now since 1994. I've practiced in every type of pharmacy setting practically that was available to me. Everything from inner city pharmacy clinic in Louisville all the way out to very rural parts of Kentucky. I've also have experience in hospital pharmacy, home infusion pharmacy, and home health pharmacy, and long-term pharmacy. And I take all that knowledge and apply that with what I've learned from Dr. Wallach. Many years ago, I had a customer come to me and wanted to know what he needs to take when it comes to omega-3 to lower his cholesterol. And at that time, I really had no idea. So I started doing research into different nutraceuticals, cholesterol specifically. I found somewhere between 20 and 30 articles on omega-3 fatty acids. And all these articles had fantastic results from the omega-3 fatty acids. Anywhere from lowering diabetes, decreasing pain from arthritis, controlling cholesterol and triglycerides. And it was just one article after another that showed all these positive benefits. And then I came across one article that was listed in, and I can't remember now whether it was the New England Journal or Journal of the American Medical Association, but it was in one of those two. And it basically said that omega-3 fatty acids, fish oils, did nothing. Now, I had a pharmacy professor that taught us that when we get articles like that, when we see something where a body of evidence is saying one thing and you get this lone article out here that says something different, you have to ask yourself three questions. Number one, who sponsored the research? Number two, what did they stand to gain or lose from that research? And number three, what did they do to get the results that they did that was different from everybody else? Well, this particular article was sponsored by one of the statin drug companies. So immediately we know that they stand to gain or lose there. If they can prove that fish oil does nothing for cholesterol, then they stand to make billions of dollars off their cholesterol medication. So what did they do differently from all the others? Well, all this body of evidence over here, all these scientists gave 6,000 to 9,000 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids to get the positive results. The pharmaceutical company study gave 1,000 milligrams, 6 times less than what the others did. So naturally, their results were going to be that it did nothing. And that led me to studying more and more on all the nutraceutical articles. And when I say nutraceutical, I mean anytime an article came out on a vitamin or a nutritional product or a mineral that said it didn't do anything, those things are all nutraceuticals. So I started pulling all those articles, and article after article, the ones that said a nutraceutical didn't do anything, they were basically giving people either a dosage form that you don't absorb or a dosage amount that's much less than what is necessary for your body. And that led me to finding Dr. Wallach through all that research. For many years, I would call Dr. Wallach on his radio show and get advice for different patients of mine. And then I would do the best I could with the products we had available over the counter in the pharmacy to help those patients. Fortunately, in 2011, I got to meet Dr. Wallach for the first time down in Nashville, Tennessee. And then in 2012, he was traveling through Kentucky, and he called me up and invited me to come and meet him for breakfast, and my life changed at that point. For the next year and a half, I spent 1 week in the month traveling somewhere in the United States with Dr. Wallach on his traveling circuit. I learned more on those trips from Dr. Wallach than I did all those years in pharmacy school when it comes to vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and nutrition in general and its role in health. Today we have with us Dr. Joe Wallach. He's a biomedical research pioneer. He's considered the founder of Liquid Vitamins and Minerals. He's earned a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture from the University of Missouri. He has a major in animal husbandry where he studied nutrition of farm animals. And he has a minor in field crops and soils He earned a doctorate of veterinary medicine and 3 postdoctoral fellowships. He spent more than 40 years in the field of veterinary medicine, observing and researching the effects of individual nutrients on animal health before finally earning a doctorate in naturopathic medicine degree. He's done in his lifetime over 32,000 autopsies on various species of animals and humans. For comparison, a culmination of that work is in a textbook that's in the Smithsonian Institute as a national treasure. It's called Diseases of Exotic Animals. Through that research, the veterinary industry has been able to eliminate more than 600 diseases in animals that still plague us as human beings. He's held key positions in different zoos and universities throughout the United States. He worked in South Africa on the Operation Rhino project. That's the project that saved the white rhino from extinction. If you see a white rhino in a zoo today in the United States, it's probably one that's an offspring of one of the ones that he saved back then. He also tracked the elephants as they migrated across the African continent, and kept track of their migration habits, what they ate, and that type thing. He's been published now in more than 70 different scientific and medical journals. He's written 15 books, not including the one in the Smithsonian. His lecture, Dead Doctors Don't Lie, was recorded on a cassette tape because he realized that he could not get out and see as a doctor as many patients as he wanted to. I mean, he's limited with his time to 15, 20 patients a day. So he recorded this lecture, started giving this cassette tape out to folks just like me, just like Arlen that's on the call with us. Folks like us then spread this message. That cassette tape original lecture has now got over 600 million in circulation and has now been reproduced into 9 languages. He also has 2 nationally syndicated radio shows and travels extensively across the US. COVID has kind of put a break on that, but he has done Zoom meetings in replace of that, and will be getting back on the road soon. I count him as a personal friend, someone that I, like I said, spent that 1.5 years traveling with. And Dr. Wallach, welcome to the show. How are you this morning?
Well, very fine. Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Pharmacist Keith, and we always love to hear your story also. And when I'm not doing a Zoom or doing my radio, I continue to do research, using the internet and going into the World Health Organization data and so forth. And one of the things is very evident is that you go back into history, pandemics have been around forever. You remember the story of Moses, let my people go stuff in the Old Testament, when the Hebrew slaves had been enslaved for 400 years by the Egyptians. And of course, all the pharaohs enjoyed the benefits of having all these slaves for 400 years. And so there were these plagues, there were 8 plagues. Okay, the 8th one, unfortunately or fortunately, all the dead included the pharaoh's old, firstborn son. And so that was his motivation to release the Hebrew slaves. Well, what I went and did was look at what was it that the Hebrew slaves were doing for the Egyptians. I mean, were they sweeping the sidewalks? Were they cooking? What were they doing? Okay, well, they were growing food for the Egyptian military, which kind of ruled the world at that time. And what were they growing? Well, they were growing barley and wheat. They were feeding the Egyptian military barley and wheat for 400 years. And that's why they had these plagues, okay, because their intestines were dead. They weren't supplementing. The gluten in the barley and wheat was killing their intestines. And depending on what province they lived in or where they were at, they had problems. Okay, and they got the plague. Well, in 1918, we had the Spanish flu, which was very disastrous. In October of 1918, we lost in America 97,000 people in one day, okay, in October of 1918. For the 2 years of that plague, that pandemic, we lost 657,000 dead, okay? Now, India, they lost 20 million dead in 6 months during 1918 pandemic. They lost, or they got 110 million infected in that same 6 months, as they lost 20 million dead from the Spanish flu. And then after that, we had the Asian flu. We had the H1N1. We had SARS, MERS, COVID-2. We had HIV, okay? We had polio. We had, let's see, what's the other? AIDS. We had many other, we had the regular flu. Of course, we still had to take vaccinations for smallpox and all that kind of stuff. And so what was going on here? Well, people in America have been eating gluten, okay, since we came here, and our intestines are dead. And of course, when you look at the statistics, the indigenous peoples have the greatest percentage of deaths per 100,000 infections. Second are the Black population. Number 3, I think, are the Polynesians. Number 4 are the whites, and the last ones are the Asians in America. Did I leave out the Hispanics? I think the Hispanics are in there somewhere, like number 3 or 4. But the last ones are the Asians. The Asians have about like 1/3 the deaths per 100,000 infections of anybody else. So what's going on here? It's not a racial thing. It's a dietary thing. And so they, the experts want you to believe it's a racial thing. No, it's not a racial thing. It's a dietary thing. It's gluten and no supplementation. Gluten and no supplementation. Well, as of this morning, the number of infected people in the world is 167,544,276. The number of dead people in the world from COVID-19 is 3,478,958. And then you look at the USA. The USA, as of this morning, let me get the right, I've got this piece of paper with a million numbers on it here. Let's see here. As of this morning, the USA, the number was 33,778,876, and the number of dead is 604.5 million dead. We're going to surpass that 657,000 dead from the Spanish flu in 1918 with this COVID-19. And then when you look at the details here, when you look at the top 3 states and Kentucky, there's a reason why the numbers are the way they are. California is number 1, okay, when it comes to the 50 states. Let's see here. California has, California has 3,377,800, something like that, infections. And California has 62,858 dead. Okay. Texas has 2.9 million infections and 51,000 dead. Well, they both have 39% Hispanic, and California has, let's see here, California has 8% Black, and Texas has 14% Black, but both have 39% Hispanic. So you're looking at more than 50%, okay, or certainly more than 40% of their total populations are Hispanic and Black. Let's look at Florida. Okay, Florida has, excuse me, Florida has 2 million, okay, 2,304,000 infections and 36,446 dead. Kentucky, with 5 million population, has 3.9% Hispanic and 8.5% Black. So together, you're looking at about 12%. Okay, these minority races, and of course, in number of infections, Kentucky has 455,790 and 6,716 dead. Let's look at a country that has a very similar population to you guys, which is New Zealand. They have 5 million population, and they have 26, let's see here, 26 dead. You have 6,000 dead. They have 26 dead. They have infections 2,642, and you have 455,790. You know, you have like 150 times more infections.
Yeah.
And
Plus, because in Kentucky, it has nothing to do with race. It has to do with the fact that we like our fried chicken, our fried okra, our fried biscuits, our fried apples.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, very famous, right? But also, everybody's eating gluten.
Right.
Okay, wheat bread rounds for breakfast, French
dip it
toast
all
for
in that.
breakfast,
You dip it all
waffles,
in that heat
yeah,
and fry it up.
yeah, waffles, pancakes, spaghetti, all that kind of stuff, and that's the problem. And so, if everybody were to eat like the Asians, we'd add 25 to 50 healthy years to your life, and these pandemics would be a nothing, or wouldn't even occur. So let's look at two more examples, if I may, real quickly. Here are my two favorites. Nigeria and Brazil both have about the same population, about 208 million people. Nigeria, okay, has 2,000 dead. Brazil has 439,377 dead, and 16 million infections. Nigeria has 165,000 infections and 2,000 dead. Huge difference. What's the difference? Well, Nigeria is 98% Black African tribal peoples. I mean, they should have the worst record in the world if it was a racial thing, right?
Right.
But in Brazil is 47% whites, Europeans that came in 300-400 years ago. They immigrated there because it was all over the world that there was all this gold and silver in Brazil, so they all went there for the gold and silver. And then there's 47% mulatto, biracial, half Black, half white, and then there's 9% totally Black. And so again, in Brazil, they have 439,577 dead and 16 million infections. Nigeria has 165,000 infections and 2,000 dead. Huge difference in dead and infections. So what it is, the Nigerians are living on maize, corn, rice, beans, sweet potatoes, and squash and seaweed. Like they eat like Asians. They live on the west coast of Africa. The Brazilians live like the Europeans who've been there for 400 years. They eat nothing but wheat, barley, rye, and oats. Gluten, 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 can't absorb nutrition. And neither of these populations are famous for supplementation. The last one I'm going to share with you is, you know Florida. Let's go with Florida and Taiwan. Both of them have about 22 million people. And Taiwan has 12 dead. Okay, and Florida has 35,849 dead. 35,849 dead. Taiwan, with the same population, has 12 dead. Florida has 2,275,368 infections. And Taiwan has 1,200 infections. I mean, huge difference. So what's the difference? Well, Taiwan is a classic Asian country, and they live on nothing but maize, corn, rice, sweet potatoes, beans, squash, and seaweed. They're getting all these trace minerals from the seaweed, which their bone marrow loves, to make all their defenses, white blood cells, red blood cells, platelets, and antibodies. In Florida, depending on what county you're looking at, 40, 50, 60%, okay? Again, I go back to the numbers. Florida is 25% Hispanic and 18% Black. Texas is 39% Hispanic and 14% Black. Florida is 39% Hispanic and 8% Black, okay? And you guys are about 15%, both those two races combined, okay? And so it's one of those things where, again, misinformation has prevailed. It's not a racial thing, it's a dietary thing. And this is not the first pandemic that we or humanity has suffered through. Right. And like all things, is a 22 bullet as powerful as a 45 bullet? No. Are all viruses as deadly as each other? No. Some, like the common cold is a virus, but it's not very deadly. Okay. A lot
of people don't realize it's an actual version of a coronavirus.
That is correct. And so that's why little kids, when they get the coronavirus, when they're 3, 4, 5 years old, they get common cold-like symptoms for what, 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Then it's over with. They have the antibodies against the COVID-19, and they're protected for life. And like 1 in a million die. These kids under 3, 4, 5 years of age, and they usually had asthma and other stuff, and they couldn't absorb any nutrition because they were eating gluten. Okay, but once you've been eating gluten for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, you're in trouble because your intestines are dead. You're not supplementing, and so your bone marrow is dead, and people have to go to the doctor once a month for an iron shot and a B12 shot, and after 6 months or a year, that doesn't work anymore. And so then they start talking about bone marrow dysplasia. Your bone marrow, you're 70 years old, you got to expect your bone marrow is dead. You can't make white blood cells and antibodies and red blood cells and platelets anymore. So we'll give you a transfusion for a while, and people get tired of that. And so they say, well, I can give you a bone marrow transplant. That's a couple $100,000, but don't worry about it. Insurance will pay. People said, I'll opt for the bone marrow transplant. When really all they had to do is get off of gluten and take the 90 and it would all go away.
Yeah, I want to compare a couple other numbers real quick too. My numbers are a couple days older, but I break some things down by age group. Here in the United States, at the time I did this, there were 568,000 COVID deaths. When you look at people 85 and older, almost 172,000 of those deaths were 85 and over. And if you look at the age 65 and over, it was out of 568,000 deaths, 454,000 were age 65 and over. So that leaves a little over 100,000 deaths for people under 65. And we went absolutely nuts. We were outraged. We shut down the economy. We all stayed at home and did nothing and put our mask on and took our mask off, double mask and put our mask on, or whatever it was they said. We followed all these things. Depression rates and suicide rates have skyrocketed because of all the people that were mentally affected by having to stay at home and not get out and socialize. But I want to look at another number that isn't talked about. Now, this is 2010 from the CDC. It was data from the National Hospital Discharge Survey. So in 2010, 715,000 inpatient hospital deaths. COVID, 568,000. In 2010, inpatient hospital deaths, 715,000. Inpatient hospitalizations increased 11% that year. Now let's break these deaths down. 85 and over. Out of that 715,000 hospital deaths, there were 193,000 that were 85 and older. There were 522,000 that were 65 and over. Where's the outrage? We shut down the economy over 568,000 COVID deaths. There's 715,000 hospital deaths. Where's the outrage? Where's the Congress calling for investigations on how to solve this problem, how to save all these people? Folks, that's what Dr. Wallach and I do. That's why we get on here every week, because we know that we can prevent all these diseases if you take care of your body, if you take personal responsibility, if we quit depending on a pill to solve our problem, a pharmaceutical drug. Folks, those pharmaceutical drugs, they don't solve anything unless you got an infection and you take an antibiotic or antiviral. But beyond that, those pharmaceutical drugs do not stop a single case of high blood pressure. They lower the blood pressure through chemical means, but whatever is causing that high blood pressure is still there in the background. Those diabetic medications, they don't cure your diabetes. They force your body to do things that's not natural to do in order to keep the blood sugar down. It's a warning sign. All these pharmaceutical drugs is cutting that red warning light that your body has given you. I mean, if you were driving down the interstate in your brand new Lexus and the dashboard light comes on and it's flashing that little red warning light, are you going to keep on driving down the interstate and ignore that light? Or are you going to pull over to the side of the road, take your pliers out and cut the wires to that light so you don't have to look at it anymore? That's what you're doing when you buy these pharmaceutical drugs. That's what you're doing when you buy into the medical management approach to disease. You're cutting those red warning lights and you're not solving the problem. And that's what we're here for today. We're here to talk about that. I've got a lot of folks that have questions today. I want to start with a testimonial from a friend of mine, but before I do that, let me share something else with you. The food and dietary supplement products that we mentioned in this program are intended to contribute to the daily diet and overall health, and they're not intended for use in the prevention, treatment, mitigation, or cure of any disease or health-related condition. Individuals who have or suspect they have an illness or who wish to commence a diet or exercise program should consult with an appropriately licensed healthcare practitioner for medical history evaluation, diagnosis, treatment, and health recommendations. And one more thing I want to add to that. As a pharmacist, I believe that pharmaceuticals do have a role in your health. If you've got a health condition like diabetes, or if you've got uncontrolled blood pressure, you know, it's okay to take a drug to manage that, but you've got to take the next step and you got to take personal responsibility and try to fix the problem through proper nutrition and supplementation so we can get rid of those drugs. Again, those drugs are just cutting that red warning light. They're not solving the underlying problem. That's why the more and more drugs they invent for diabetes isn't saving people long-term from the death that's going to occur because of diabetic conditions. You have to take personal responsibility. And to that, I want to talk to Arlen. Arlen is 83 years old, about to turn 84. I met him first in 2013 when he came to a Dr. Wallach event that I sponsored. And at the time, his wife was having a lot of medical issues. And I just want Arlen just to briefly tell us about what happened and how your life has changed since you've met Dr. Wallach.
Well, thank you, Keith and Dr. Wallach. I just want to give a quick background here. I was born and grew up in Texas. I'm a widower now with 3 children and grandchildren, a Texas A&M graduate in agriculture, retired U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander, and retired U.S. Census Bureau status. And after having had a triple heart bypass at age 70, 13 years ago, people tell me all the time I look younger than my age. So what happened, I began to, I guess it was the Kentucky Fried Chicken and some other things. I packed on 30 pounds, pizza, whatever, and the doctor said, you got to get these arteries replaced because you won't live long if you don't do that. So I did, and they put me on a statin drug and bisystolic, lisinopril, aspirin, and told me to walk a lot. Then 8 years ago, after listening to Dr. Wallach's radio program, and it came on real late here in Louisville, I said, I think I'll give that a try. Yeah. And so within a year, after taking a healthy, it was a healthy heart and blood pack, I was able to get off all those 4 prescription drugs, aspirin, the whole bit. I did take a low thyroid medicine or thyroxine that I take. So in November, I had a doctor's annual physical, a very thorough physical. And he said, I can't find anything wrong with you. I said, well, that's really good news. You know, other than the low thyroid. I try to play golf twice a week. I have my grandkids living with me, helping raise them. I just feel, I never really get tired. I get sleepy. And I changed my diet. I went off gluten 4 years ago, and I dropped some weight. And then I eat 4 soft-boiled eggs every morning with a piece of Jimmy Dean sausage. I don't know if that's bad, but anyway, sometimes I don't even eat lunch. I just, because you don't have hunger pains when you start getting all the minerals that you need. So I have Dr. Wallach to thank, and I know he's helped thousands of people. The one thing I want to point out about the gluten, that's what really ended my wife's life. She was 78, and she had separation, a rupture of her large intestine from the small intestine. Anyway, they operated and they said, we can't finish the operation. Her small intestine doesn't look the right color. We'll finish it tomorrow. They went back in the next day, and she died during that second operation. And they said she couldn't have lived anyway. The blood supply was cut off to her small intestine. And when I described her symptoms to Dr. Wallach, he confirmed it had to be gluten intolerance. So, and I've since learned there's 3 books that were New York Times bestsellers. I'll quote one that was written by Dr. William Davis, MD. Wheat belly, lose the weight, lose the wheat, lose the weight, and find your path back to health. And it's just amazing what's happening. They've strengthened the gluten. The geneticists have modified that to make it stickier and harder to digest and so forth. So I wanted to point out I'm 5'7½". I weigh 160. I weigh 20 pounds less than when I played football in high school. So anyway, I think that pretty much sums up. I'm just anxious to get out there and hit a few more balls. Sharpen.
Arlen's very active in his church. He's very active with golf. He's always coming to me with different folks that he meets along the way that comments about his health and ask him, what's he doing? So he's always coming to me for advice on these folks. And folks, that's what it's all about with Dr. Wallach. It's all about making sure you give your body all the 90 essential nutrients that you need, and then living a better life. And folks are going to notice that you're getting healthier. Folks are going to notice that you're able to get out and do more. And they're going to ask you, what did you do? How come you're out here playing golf and you're not, having a hard time breathing in this high humidity in Kentucky? How are you doing it? And that's when you have the chance to share Dr. Wallach's story. For decades, people were just giving this cassette when folks would ask them that question and say, here, listen to this. And that's what we do here. And, that's how easy it is to join Dr. Wallach's army. Dr. Wallach, do you have any comments or questions for Arlen?
No, it's a beautiful testimony. I can't thank him enough for sharing. And it's very important. Now, when your church mates, your workmates, your neighbors, your family notice, they're not doctors, but they notice you're healthier, you're looking better, you're doing more. And so when a lay person with no medical training can see that you're getting better, it's very obvious, okay? And so I've taken people who were in a coma for 8 years being fed 3 times a day through a G-tube, because they were totally in a coma for 8 years. And we give them our stuff for 3 days through the G-tube, and they get up and go back to work. They didn't think they were in a coma for 8 years. It's amazing what the body can do given the nutrition. These are all well-documented stories. We take people that haven't urinated for 10 years or on dialysis 6 days a week because the guy didn't want to have a kidney transplant. He was actually on dialysis for 20-something years. And we get him on our program. And in 2 weeks' time, he's urinating again after 10 years of not urinating. And so they reduced his dialysis from 6 days a week to 3 days a week. And in 2 more weeks, he was totally off of dialysis after 20 years of being on dialysis. And so it's an amazing power the good Lord gave our bodies to be able to heal, but it requires raw materials to do that, okay? And so we have an enormous, what should I say, enormous body of information we've accumulated through the veterinary industry. And that's one of the advantages I have. When Keith, Pharmacist Keith, introduced me, he pointed out that I have a degree in agriculture, I have a degree in veterinary medicine, as well as pathology. My thesis is in the Smithsonian Institute of National Treasure, and I became a licensed physician in 1982. Now, the reason why I'm so successful as being a physician is because of my training in nutrition and agriculture and being a veterinarian. Okay, and this is something that most medical doctors don't have. And again, as pharmacist Keith so ably pointed out, that the medical industry is built to manage health. It's built to manage health. It's not meant to prevent and cure diseases. It's designed to manage health. I get people tell me, oh, I'm going to leave everything in my will to my doctor when I die. I had pain for 30 years and he gave me some opium, and in 3 days' time, my pain was gone. I just love my doctor. And so when I die, everything I have is going to go to my doctor. How crazy is that? Okay. But you get rid of all the bad foods, take your 90 essential nutrients, and not only does the pain go away, the cause of the pain goes away because you had arthritis, you had osteoporosis, and so on. And it's one of those crazy things. They're talking about COVID now. People lose their sense of smell when they're going to get COVID, and they lose their sense of smell after they've had COVID. They can't blame that on COVID. No, it's caused by osteoporosis of the skull, squeezing the first cranial nerve, the olfactory nerves. And you rebuild your skull in, say, 60 days with the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack, the MSM, vitamin D3, some glucogel, some Fucoid Z. And within 2 to 6 weeks, your sense of smell comes back. Your immune system is built up again. And you don't have to go to the doctor once a month to get an iron shot because you're making your own red blood cells without having to do that, because you're supplementing and avoiding the bad stuff. So we've been doing this for 50 years. I've personally been doing it for 73 years. So this is unimpeachable evidence. We have literally millions of studies in the animal industry. And so that's the advantage I have. And I picked the home-based business system because, as pharmacist Keith pointed out, I knew that I could not do this all by myself. I would just be a kind of a quiet little voice in the wind someplace, nobody would be hearing it. So when we came up with that audio cassette tape, Dead Doctors Don't Lie, it's in 9 languages now. We've sold over 600 million copies around the world. Of course, we have the book is in Spanish as well as in English. And that story connects with people. People connect with it, and they can see their doctor with it. They can see themselves with it, okay? And we put it in so many languages because we're in 50 countries, in Peru, okay? We're in Brazil, so we have it in Spanish, we have it in Portuguese, we have it in French, we have it in Chinese, Mandarin, and Cantonese, we have it in Japanese, we have it in Korean, we have it in Vietnamese, we have it in French. It's an amazing, well, English, of course. And so the whole purpose here is to have enough information getting out to people. And if they just get rid of the bad foods, they're going to add some time to their life. Their quality of their life is going to go up. But when they get rid of the bad foods, if they take the 90 essential nutrients and give their body what it needs, let's see here. Arlen, in Texas, have you ever heard of anybody putting dirt from Texas in their car instead of oil? There's bound to be some oil in that dirt from Texas. Nobody in their right mind, even an idiot, wouldn't put dirt from Texas in their car instead of oil.
That's right, Doc. No, you're right.
But when you're just eating and hoping to get everything you need from your food, you might as well shoot yourself in the head and get it over quick and save your family a lot of misery and money.
There you go.
All right,
over to
Mark,
you.
I've got several questions here, so let me.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna back out.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
I know you had an appointment, so I'll see you later. Anyhow, before I get to that, you know, it's springtime, and I'm 60 years old, and so I can relate a lot to other folks out there. But, you know, in the springtime, we tend to do a lot of outdoor work. You know, we want to beautify our home. For the last couple of weeks, I've shoveled over a ton of lava rock, probably a ton of dirt. I've done all kinds of shrub planting and landscaping in my yard. And, you know, sometimes at the end of the day, you get those little aches and pains in your joints. And I recommend Hemp FX Smooth. This is a CBD-based cream with other botanicals in it as well. You just rub it into the joint and that pain goes right away. If you'd like to learn more about Hemp FX Smooth, go to aimhighwithhemp.com. Margaret, I'm going to get you on live here in just a second, but before I do that, something else Dr. Wallach mentioned there. He mentioned working with people with bone and joint problems. Margaret Ann, if you go ahead and unmute yourself, and I'll get you on here in just a second. But Dr. Wallach mentioned the bone and joint problems, and that's where I started working with Doc. Back in 2013, we had a gentleman from the Mennonite community here in Kentucky come to the show. He actually brought some of his relatives from Alabama up that were also Mennonites. And if you don't know what a Mennonite is, they're kind of like Amish. They don't have the modern conveniences that we have. They do drive, and they do use electricity. But beyond that, they live an agriculture type lifestyle, labor type lifestyle. Anyhow, this gentleman came up. He was in his 30s. He came up from Alabama, and he had degenerative back disease so bad that he was, the doctors basically told him there's nothing else they can do. They'd already maxed out all the opioid medications to control the pain that they could do, and told him that he's basically disabled for life. And, when you have a lifestyle that's based on labor and working with your hands for God, that's devastating news for him. And he was a roofer by trade. So the family members in Alabama brought him up here to see Dr. Wallach. He laid out a program for the gentleman, a healthy bone and joint program. And within a month, he was calling me on the phone all excited because he realized he'd only taken pain medicine a couple times that week. A month later, he went to his primary care physician, which I think was a chiropractor, but he went to his primary care doctor, and they did x-rays of his back, and they declared that he was free to go back to work, that he had regrown the cartilage material in his back, and he was no longer pinching his nerves. They'd never seen anything like it, but they didn't want to know how it was done. But they told him he can go back to work, and he since then bought his own roofing company, is continuing to work in that business. Margaret Ann, have you unmuted your phone?
Yes.
Okay, Margaret Ann's 57, 5'4", 98 pounds. She's been gluten-free for 3.5 years, no wheat, barley, rye, or oats, and she's gotten off all the bad foods. She's a lacto-ovo vegetarian. She does have wild Alaska salmon occasionally. She's been on Dr. Wallach's products for 4.5 years, most of the time the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack. She loves Dr. Wallach. So let's tell Dr. Wallach what's going on and what your question is.
I have some gray hair and a patch of white hair in the front of framing my face on the top of my head. And I have some spider veins. And I drink reverse osmosis water, and I balance it with trace minerals from a different company. And I'm wondering if this reverse osmosis water is maybe impeding my ability to completely heal myself.
Probably not, but you need to do a little bit more of something. What I want you to do, 98 pounds, I would, optimally like you to get rid of all the bad foods. No fried foods, no processed meats, no oils of any kind, no gluten, no wheat, butter, rye, and oats, no sugar, no carbonated drinks. And of course, I'm glad to hear you're an ovo-lacto vegetarian. Milk is good for you. Eggs are good for you. But you think about it, that little baby chick, when the egg is laid by the hen, is a millimeter in diameter. In 21 days, when the chick is fully formed inside that egg and comes out, it has a beating heart, it has a liver that works, has kidneys that work, has lungs that work, has brains that work, has muscles that work, all the bones and joints and feathers and everything, all from that little 1 millimeter spot on top of the yolk. There's an enormous amount of nutrition in an egg, so that's why I eat 3 of them twice a day, okay? Then what I want you to do is have one healthy brain and heart pack per month. But the secret here for getting rid of your gray hair, which is a red warning light, as Pharmacist Keith was talking about, I want you to add another bottle of our selenium. Our selenium is not selenium, so don't run to the grocery store or a pharmacy. Okay, you only get selenium, which is not a bad thing, but it's not going to give you what you need from the red warning lights that are flashing. Once you use our, get another bottle of our selenium. There's already one bottle of selenium in the Healthy Brain and Heart Pack, but I want you to have 3 twice a day or 2 3 times a day for a total of 6 a day. I also want you to get our MSM, take 3 of those twice a day. That's 1 bottle a month. And don't forget some collagen. I want you to take our, let's see here. You could use our collagen peptides twice a day, or our glucogel twice a day. Let's see here, Pro Joint FX. You could take 3 of those twice a day, whichever fits your budget and all that kind of stuff. And you can rebuild your bones, your cartilage, your ligaments, your tendons, your connective tissue. Do you have any varicose veins or spider veins in your legs or hemorrhoids?
Yeah,
I did, but I healed them. And
Okay,
I do
good.
have spider veins. I have spider
Okay.
veins, but healed the others.
Okay, good. Okay, so do this and then call us back every couple of weeks, because usually within 90 days, you're going to see a remarkable loss of gray hair and the spider veins. And within 6 months' time, it'll be, you're going to look 40 years younger. You'll be a teenager again.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Margaret, if you don't mind, go ahead and mute your phone again. Charles, can you unmute yourself? Charles has a question.
Good morning. Good morning.
There you go, Charles.
Morning.
Where are you calling from?
Atlanta.
Atlanta. That's right. We talked to you at the very beginning. Anyhow,
Right.
what was your
Okay,
question
no problem.
about this 23-year-old female?
Yes, it's a friend of mine's daughter, and she's got sickle cell. And so I know I've heard Doc talk about sickle cell in the past, and I just couldn't remember details. So I was just wondering, what would he recommend about products and maybe nutritional, I should
Okay,
say,
sure.
food adjustments to do?
She's 130 pounds, Dr. Wallach.
130 pounds. Thank you. All right. Now, is she a girl of color? Is she a white girl, a black girl, Latino?
She's black. She's black.
She's black.
I apologize. Black. Okay.
No, she's black.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, first of all, sickle cell anemia is not a genetic thing. It occurs in white folks, Latinos, Asians, white-tailed deer, elephants, giraffe. Okay. It's really just a simple nutritional deficiency early in embryonic life. And that's why there's people with 2% sickle cells and 5% sickle cells and 10% sickle cells and 25% sickle cells, because it's a nutritional deficiency early in pregnancy when the bone marrow cells that make hemoglobin are forming. Okay. And in white folks, it's actually called thalassemia, because they said, well, if it's a genetic thing in black people, we can't call this thing in white folks and everybody else sickle cell anemia, because how that happened. Okay. So we're going to have to call it thalassemia. So they gave it a different name, but same start. Okay, it's early in pregnancy. So what we can do, well, we can improve her life maybe 80, 90%. We can't cure it for the standpoint, because she's got that those damaged stem cells in her bone marrow. Okay, but we can make things a lot better. So she needs to get rid of all the bad stuff: no fried foods, no processed meats, no oils, no glutens, no wheat, no bread, no sugar, and no carbonated drinks. So 1 Healthy Brain and Heart Pack per month, 1 bottle of the MSM, so you can take 3 of those twice a day. I also want her to take the vitamin D3, 3 of those twice a day. That's 2 bottles a month. She needs the Fucoid Z. I want her to take 3 of those twice a day. If she prefers a liquid, she could take the Z Radical, same formula, just different form. Take an ounce of that twice a day. It's 2 quarts a month. And again, don't forget the collagen. She could take 2 doses a day of these Pro Joint FX if she wants, 3 of those twice a day, or she could take 3 or 4 or 5 of the glucogel capsules twice a day. But she should take at least 1 dose of collagen peptides a day, because it's collagen from fish, poultry, sheep, and beef. So she can get the nutrients necessary to maximize the benefit to her stem cells in her bone marrow, but we won't be able to cure it 100%. But if you go from 20% sickle cells down to 2 to 5%, the clinical disease either gets significantly less or maybe even the clinical disease goes away. She's still, and of course, this is not a genetic thing. So she could have, perfectly normal kids, even if she marries a guy with sickle cell anemia, and she takes all the 90 essential nutrients and avoids gluten, she can have normal kids.
All right. Let's see. Tia, you want to jump on, unmute yourself? Oh, by the way, Charles, the replay will be available on Facebook and the Give Doc 90 Days to Better Health, Wellness, and Longevity page after the show's over. So if you didn't get all that, you can listen to the replay there. Okay.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you, Doc.
Hey, appreciate you too, Charles. Thank you.
Yes, hi. Good morning still. Yes, I have a friend who's always complaining about constipation. I think she had an infusion earlier last year, anemia. She's always suffered from anemia and leg cramps. And I recommended the 90-day for life, but I think she's still suffering from a lot of this stuff. And I'm not sure what to recommend to her.
Okay. How old is she and how much does she weigh?
48, 180.
48 years old, 5'6", 180 pounds, chronic constipation and anemia and leg pain.
Yeah. Okay. Well, she's got a gluten issue. Okay. And so she, of course, one of the main symptoms of gluten is the constipation. Okay. And the cramps, these are nutritional deficiencies in the muscles. Anemia is nutritional deficiencies in the bone marrow. And has she been getting iron or B12 shots, or both of those at her doctors, or is she just trying, what's she doing?
From her doctor.
So
she's getting the
infusion. She's been doing infusions, and I think she goes for B12 too. Yeah, for energy. Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. None of the bad stuff. No fried foods. No processed meats. No oils. No glutens. No wheat. No brown rhinos. So. And then at 180 pounds, I want her to have 2 healthy brain and heart packs a month, full dose everything twice a day. I want her to get 2 bottles a month of the MS. This is repair cartilage, ligaments, tendons, connective tissue, disc between the vertebrae, bone makes your bone itself, including the bone marrow cavity. It's going to make more red blood cells and white blood cells and platelets and antibodies and all that kind of stuff. And I want her to get an extra bottle of our Caltati. I want her to take a half an ounce of that twice a day. Okay, she may even take an ounce twice a day. Put an ounce, say, in her morning liquids and put an ounce in the evening liquids. That's what I do. I only weigh 142 pounds, but I put an ounce of the Caltati in my liquids twice a day. And then she also needs the collagen, so she can have the glucogel capsules, 3 or 4 or 5 of those twice a day. She can have the collagen peptides in the middle of the day. And it's one of those things where this is going to be a for life thing. But she's got to stay away from the bad stuff, take this super supplementation. The leg cramps will go away. The constipation goes away. The anemia goes away. And the doctors go away.
All right. Thank you, Tia.
Thank you so much.
And
hey, you bet.
And you can listen to the replay if you missed any of that. Someone asked about nearsightedness. So glasses are no longer needed. That's a deformity of the eye at birth, isn't it, Dr. Wallach?
Okay, usually when people have vision issues, whether the vision is getting slightly worse or slightly better, they have other issues, and they usually tend to be middle-aged or older. This is usually osteoporosis of the skull, and that's why Dr. Milan and I wrote that book, It's All in Your Head. There's 25 different diseases that people get. They're caused by osteoporosis of the skull, squeezing the 12 pairs of cranial nerves in the spinal cord. And doctors never mention osteoporosis of the skull. How can you have osteoporosis of your vertebrae, your legs and your pelvis, your arm, have osteoporosis of the skull? I just find that amazing that doctors never deal with that. Well, then I learned that most doctors have a tennis partner or a golf buddy or something like that who's an ear, eye, nose, and throat doctor, or they're a psychologist or neurologist, and they deal with all these 25 different diseases. And so what they do is they just, keep sending people to their golf buddy and their tennis partner, okay, as opposed to getting them off all the bad foods and getting them on the 90 essential nutrients and getting rid of the diseases because they want to support their partner. Remember, the medicine is in the business. Pharmacist Keith described it perfectly at the beginning of the show, that medicine is in the business of managing disease, not eliminating it.
Yeah, and just like you and I, we both wear glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, well, I was born with glasses.
right, so was I. And it was because of the shape of the eye, and there's not really much you can do to change that. I mean, they have the laser surgeries today that can do that, but beyond that, there's not much else you can do to change a birth defect.
Yeah, exactly. It was a birth defect, okay?
Right.
And so, but it hasn't gotten any worse because I've been taking these 90 essential nutrients for 73 years.
Right.
But I take people, I had one wager with a eye doctor. I said, he said, what do you, well, actually it came from a lecture and the guy said, my mom's been legally blind for 6 years from macular degeneration. And I said, well, I can reverse that. And this guy jumps up in the back room and says, what are you talking about? That's impossible. I said, and he called me a GD liar. I said, well, who are you? He says, well, I'm an eye surgeon. And I diagnose hundreds of people who are blind every year from macular degeneration. I said, well, let's have a little wager. Give me some of your patients' charts and let's see how many I can heal. He said, you're on. So he gave me 27 charts of his patients. So he couldn't argue with the diagnosis because he made the diagnosis of macular degeneration blindness in 27 patients. And they'd been legally blind under his tutelage for 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 years. Okay. To make a long story short, after 90 days of my program, they could all read 20/20 without glasses. He had to pay off. And of course, typical of a medical doctor, he went with a group of bad guys and tried to claim he was the one that came up with the idea and so forth. And so we had to separate away from him. And I don't know if his practice is still in practice, but he knows he can't claim that he was the one who came up with that idea. So we actually had to stop. We actually made a CD out of the story, but we stopped the CD because I didn't want to send anybody to him after he cut from us and went to a bunch of bad guys.
All right, I had another question. This seems like it comes up a lot. So this person, basically bone and joint problems, has been following your program. They are now feeling much better. All the problems have gone away. All the symptoms have gone away, so they don't have the red warning light showing up anymore. So their question is, how long do they have to continue taking the maintenance dose of 90 essential nutrients? And can they go all the way down to just the basic 90, or do they need to keep doing the bone and joint program?
Okay, that's a very, very good question. I get asked that, as you can imagine, thousands of times a month. And basically, you need to stay on the program for the rest of your life. Okay, this is a lifetime deal. How long do you need oxygen for life? How long do you need water for life? How long do you need the 90 essential nutrients for life? How long do you need to avoid the bad stuff for life? Okay, and so do you put dirt from Texas in your car instead of oil so you can save a few bucks? Come on now, man. There's bound to be a little bit of oil in that dirt from Texas. It's dirt from Texas. An idiot, an insane person wouldn't do that to their car. And then that same person says, well, I just eat well because my doctor says I can get everything I need.
Right.
Okay. Just by eating well. No, you need to be on the 90 essential nutrients for life, just like we do with animals. And you think about it, dogs before commercial dog food with all the vitamins and minerals in it, dry dog food, canned dog food, the average lifespan of a dog was 8, 10 years old. Well, now the average lifespan of a dog is over 20.
Right.
Okay. And you don't have to go get a hip replacement in a dog anymore. You don't have to have a heart transplant in a dog, all that kind of stuff. They don't get Parkinson's disease. They don't do it. They're perfectly healthy for 20 years. Okay. And that's because they have all these nutrients put in the dog food. That's why people living under the bridge eating dog food live longer and healthier than a doctor.
Yeah. So basically, if you're following the dietary recommendations of Dr. Wallach, you're gluten-free, you're doing all that, then the 90 essential, the 90 for life, a healthy body pack is what you need. If you're not going to follow those recommendations, you got to stay on the entire program for the rest of your life. because you're fighting against your bad habits. This particular patient says they have gone gluten-free and they have been following your recommendations.
Excellent.
So as long as they're making sure they get all 90 essential nutrients from one of the healthy body packs, that should be sufficient as long as you're following those recommendations. Dr. Wallach, you got a few more minutes or you need to go?
No, I've got time.
Okay, let's see. Oh, I guess that was the last question. So anyway, Dr. Wallach talks about the red warning lights. I talk about the red warning lights, metabolic syndrome, diabetes and obesity all the time. I highly recommend that you go over to drjwallach.com. That's DR as in doctor, J as in his initial, Wallach. So drjwallach.com, and get this book called Hell's Kitchen. Hell's Kitchen is the cause, prevention, and cure of obesity, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. So this covers high blood pressure, weight issues, bone and joint issues. It covers the whole gamut because that's all part of the metabolic syndrome. So I recommend you getting that book. When you get that book, it also comes with the free CD. I also recommend that you get the CD from Dr. Wallach's store called Red Warning Lights, because that also goes in a little bit more detail on the different red warning lights. And it's taken from, I think I took it from 3 different weeks of the show and compiled it all together into one CD. Also, Dr. Wallach can be heard on the radio, where you can call in and ask questions. It's twice a day, Monday through Friday. And what's the best way to get hold of you on those programs?
Okay, well, it's Pacific time, noon to 1 is the first one. Let's Play Doctor. Okay, excuse me, Dead Doctors Don't Lie. That's the first one. Is Dead Doctors Don't Lie. It's noon to 1. It's 1-888-379-2552. Again, that's 1-888-379-2552. And then from 1 to 2 Pacific time. Okay, that's the Let's Play Doctor one. Okay, that's also toll free, 1-877-912-PLAY, 1-877-912-7529. And those two shows together, we get about 150,000 to 200,000 listeners every day in each one of them. And then I also am going to be on George Norrie this coming a week from today at 10 o'clock p.m. to midnight, 2 hours on George Norrie. I do that like once every 4 to 6 weeks. We're going on the 4th year. We get 12 million people on that one with George Norrie. He has such a huge following. And it's really, because it's 2 hours, it's really a lot of great detail, a lot of great stuff.
And this Wednesday, Dr. Wallach is going to be on a special Zoom call with the Dr. Patch Adams. For those of you who don't know who Dr. Patch Adams is, he is a medical doctor, but he has a different approach to medicine. He uses a holistic approach, including comedy. He's best known as a clown. He treats people where he doesn't get paid for his services. He treats people for their health problems through medicine and other natural means, including his comedy. And Dr. Wallach and him met several years ago, and they're going to be doing a special Zoom this Wednesday. What time is that Zoom, Dr. Wallach?
3:30 Pacific time. Okay. 3:30 Pacific time, and it's going to be a Zoom. And the whole purpose of he and I getting reattached here, I think 2011 was the first time I met him, and back in 2017 or something like that, is when I really got to know him. And so we've decided to work together. He's got a big piece of property in West Virginia. We want to build a hospital out there. This can be for kids that have nothing to do with the way they treat kids now, okay? There's so many diseases kids have, they're totally reversible within weeks or months. And of course, remember, the medical system's in the business of managing disease. When they get old, because they want to milk them like a dairy cow for 75 years, okay? And so we want to get that kid well so they can go on and function and have a wonderful, healthful family and a wonderful life, add 25 to 50 healthy years to their life. And so we're, obviously Patch Adams has a tax-free one of these organizations what am I thinking of here?
Charitable organization.
Yeah, that's, I guess,
not for profit.
Gesundheit. Yeah, there you go. Non-for-profit, the Gesundheit Institute. And so, you can write them a check on Christmas or something like that. And we're going to get them involved with longevity so we can build a whole army underneath that project and get that thing done in 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I will put the link in the show notes to that.
Okay, thank you.
In fact, the current link is a little difficult to use, so I'm going to create a link called patch.campaignfornutrition.com. As soon as the show's over, I'll get that live, and that will connect to the Zoom meeting on Wednesday. Patch.campaignfornutrition.live. Okay, Dr. Wallach, it's been a pleasure having you on the show again today. I really appreciate it. Folks, you can get the replay of this on the Facebook page, Give Doc 90 Days to Better Health, Wellness, and Longevity. I have a couple free gifts for you. I'll talk to you later, Doc. I know you got to get off.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, 2 free gifts for you for joining us. The first one is a video version of the latest video version of the Dead Doctors Don't Lie called Someone Should Go to Jail, Health, Life, and Medicine. You can get the link to watch this video at dddlvideo.com. That's DDDL. That stands for Dead Doctors Don't Lie. So dddlvideo.com. In addition to that, there's an article Dr. Wallach wrote called Why So Many Young Athletes Die. You can get a copy of that as well. You can actually print that out and share it. So that's available there as well, dddlvideo.com. And if you'd like to hear the archives of Doctor's radio show, in case you can't tune in while he's live, you can go to radio.givedoc90days.com. That's radio.givedoc90days.com. And folks, you want to learn how to join Dr. Wallach's crusade to get this message out to as many people as possible, to get this message out to your loved ones, your church friends, your neighbors. Reach out to the person that invited you to this program. If you found this program on Facebook or YouTube or one of my podcasts, then you can reach me by going to campaignfornutrition.com. It's campaignfornutrition.com. And there's a bunch of information on there about Dr. Wallach, about the company, and there's a link on there so you can contact me, or you can text me at 502-212-2929, 502-212-2929. All right, and if you jump over to Give Doc 90 Days to Better Health, Wellness, and Longevity, I'll put the link in down there for the Patch Adams show and get that over to you. So I will see you again. We do this every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific. See you next week.
This has been the Prosperity RX podcast with pharmacist Keith Abel. Prosperity RX, your prescription for health, wellness, and prosperity. If you found value in this episode, please share and go to Apple iTunes. Make a comment and give us a 5-star rating. Also subscribe to us on iTunes or on your favorite podcast platform. Prosperity RX can also be found on YouTube at youtube.com/Prosperity RX. Be sure to subscribe and hit that little bell so you'll be notified each time a new episode has been uploaded. Pharmacist Keith is also a business entrepreneur. He helps folks from all walks of life to start and run their own home-based business. If you'd like Keith to help you create and run your very own business, be sure to visit aimhighforsuccess.com. That's aimhighforsuccess.com. Leave your contact information and Keith will contact you personally. Once again, that's aimhighforsuccess.com. Thanks again for tuning in to the Prosperity RX podcast.